Shannon. I'm a first year psychology student and this is my room at Univ. The book I've chosen to talk about is Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking by Malcolm Gladwell. It's all about how you can do things or make snap decisions without actually thinking about them. There's a lot of unconscious cues and signals that are in the environment that you wouldn't necessarily notice. So an example in the book is that there's firemen in a house and a fireman says, oh, everybody has to get out, and then just as soon as they've got out, the floor collapses. So he just had an intuition that everybody had to leave. The cues he could have picked up on were, say, the temperature of the room was a lot hotter at his feet, so he knew that the fire was coming from underneath, which is why the floor would then fall in, even though he didn't actually think about it at the time. Especially before I came here, I read a lot of popular science books. I read this one and I read The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. They kind of sparked my general interest in psychology, and they kind of give you a little insight into the sorts of experiments that people would do or psychological thinking, which is quite good as it prepares you then for when you go on to study it at a university level. I would encourage people to, at sixth form level, read mainly what you're interested in. There's no point kind of forcing yourself to read stuff that you think you should be reading or stuff that other people are reading. I mentioned The Private Life of the Brain by Susan Greenfield. I wrote about We Need to Talk About Kevin in my personal statement as well, which isn't necessarily a psychological book, but I said how you can kind of see the relationship between Kevin and his mother in the book, and I then related that to psychology. My first interview was with Nick, who's my tutor now, and he's such a friendly guy. He really relaxed me actually because he was so chilled. He wasn't scary, he wasn't like intimidating at all. He was just really nice. We just sat on his sofa. I was asked some logic questions and some questions based on a study. The background knowledge I had from reading the books then helped me to think in the situations that I was put in the interview. There's lots of different traditions at Oxford. One of the first ones that you encounter when you come here is probably wearing your sub-fusk, because you have to wear it for matriculation, which is basically where you become a member of the college that you're at. So you go to the Sheldonian Theatre and you wear the sub-fusk, which is kind of like the black gown, the white shirt. When you go for your exams, they get you a red one, a pink one and a white one. In your first exam, you'll wear the white one, in the second you'll wear pink, and then in your last exam, you'll wear the red carnation. Once I got here, I found that there was a lot more reading than there was at A-level. The lecture notes are kind of framed to work from, and you have to flesh it out by doing all the reading. You have to read the textbooks and the scientific papers. It's very different language and a different format, but with a bit of practice it's absolutely fine. I'm reading them a lot easier now than when I first got here. A lot of people think that Oxford is going to be a lot more expensive than going anywhere else, but actually that's such a big myth. There's a lot of financial support for people from lower household incomes. Oxford has the Oxford Bursary Scheme. When I got here, I was then offered a Moritz Hyman scholarship, which has just made my life so much easier here. It's so much less to worry about, and actually it's been a lot cheaper here than if I would have gone anywhere else. The best thing about being in Oxford is probably that you get a really great mix of the social side, the academic side, and also the extracurricular side. There is no typical Oxford student. Everybody is different here, and that's the nice thing about it.